Well, Australia's High Commissioner to the UK has backtracked over snubbing Australia Day celebrations in the United Kingdom. The change of heart follows criticism from Peter Dutton, who called out Stephen Smith for being ashamed of Australia Day, adding that he should be on the next flight home. The former Rudd and Gillard government minister cancelled an annual gala dinner at Australia House last year, but will now attend the event this year. Liberal Senator Dave Sharma joins me now to discuss this further. Dave Sharma, thanks so much for your time this morning. Tell me, are you pleased to hear the Australia's High Commissioner to the UK has backtracked on his decision to snub Australia Day celebrations?
Well, I'm shocked to hear his initial decision to boycott them. I mean, last year Stephen Smith cancelled a well-known annual gala event dinner that takes place at Australia House in Australia, which is a huge public diplomacy and showcasing event for Australia and the United Kingdom. This year, Stephen Smith, having told the hosts at Australia House would no longer host such events, decided to boycott the event altogether. I mean, this is someone who is paid to represent Australia overseas. And if Stephen Smith cannot reconcile his personal views with his professional duties, then he should resign. I find it staggering that any representative of Australia overseas, ambassador or high commissioner, would be boycotting Australia Day. Certainly, if they're employed by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, a professional diplomat, they would have some serious explaining to do, and quite likely they'd be recalled to Australia.
What do you think was the deciding factor for his decision to backtrack on this?
Well, I think people have just reacted quite properly with outrage. I mean, you've seen Peter Dutton's comments saying he should be on the first flight home. That's true. I suspect that Anthony Albanese or someone else has been on the phone to Stephen Smith saying, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Because the policy of this government, as far as I'm aware, is to keep Australia Day as our national day. So Stephen Smith is employed by this government. He can't go off freelancing and announcing his own views and preferences. If he wants to do that, become a private citizen again. But it is completely untenable for a representative of Australia to be shunning our own national day.
And of course, as you mentioned, he did the same thing last year as well, and then again tried to do it this year. Do you think he should be given another chance?
Well, this is someone you'll recall who's his biggest diplomatic achievement was personally escorting Julian Assange home from London all the way to Australia via the Mariana Islands, a job that wasn't needed to be done by a High Commissioner. It could have been done by any diplomatic or consular official. I think this is a High Commissioner who's got his priorities all wrong. He was the captain's pick by Anthony Albanese, but he seems to be thinking that he can go off and do his own thing when he's in London. No, he's the Australian government's representative, the nation's representative. He needs to be reflecting our policies, our priorities and our values.
All right, I just want to touch on another topic this morning. We've heard the news that a Sydney synagogue has been attacked in the latest anti-Semitic incident in the city. What's your reaction to this latest incident?
I'm appalled by this latest incident, but I'm also very conscious that it's just one in a number of incidents. We had, of course, the Adass synagogue in Melbourne firebombed before Christmas. We had the Great Synagogue in Sydney's CBD mobbed by a group of protesters who prevented people from leaving. We've had vehicles firebombed in Sydney's eastern suburbs, graffiti written on buildings. Anti-Semitism is out of control in Australia. I don't think there's any way to gild that lily. I think we have a real problem here, and it's incumbent on the government and law enforcement to step up. That is, to make arrests, to lay charges, to bring people before the court, and to send a very strong message that this conduct, targeting any religious community in Australia, has no place in our nation and there will be zero tolerance shown towards it.
Are you hopeful that that will happen, that these perpetrators will be caught and shown the full force of the law?
Well, I'll certainly be encouraging the police to do so and calling upon them to do so. I know, the New South Wales Police have stood up again a task force. They did that after the incidents in the eastern suburbs in December, which means they are attaching a higher priority and more resources to this. I think that's important. We have seen a number of arrests made in recent weeks in connection with anti-Semitic attacks. I want to make sure that tempo continues, and importantly, that people are brought before the courts, charged and ultimately convicted and sentenced, because that's what we need to send a deterrent message to others who might want to take matters into their own hands.
Is that the key way of tackling anti-Semitism at the moment, or is there more that we could be doing?
Well, I think the police and law enforcement response is critical, but I would also say the tone that is set by the government of the day is also critical. And I think too often we've seen the federal government, at least, conflate anti-Semitism with other forms of discrimination and prejudice rather than focusing on it as the problem that it is and trying to make it out like it's a long-standing problem. We've seen them using very loose language towards our partnership and relationship with Israel, which has only fanned the flames of anti-Semitism. I would like to see this government be more disciplined in their public language.